EZOMD welcomes you to the Easy Labs. And now the host of the program, Jay Appell.
Hey, thank you and welcome back. Part 2, we install ePO and connect over to SQL and continue on with the learning of SQL, ePO 5.10, native installation, and then the update to that to finish it all up. Let's get going. So back to our two simulators. SQL's right here, just the way we left it. And we're going to go into the latest version of 5.10, and it's release 6. Going to open up the folder, and we're going to go through here. This is the ePO IP. This is the auditor I was telling you about earlier, the pre-installation auditor. And when you execute it, this program is for the enterprise or the working folks, not your lab, although you can use this in the lab. And it allows you to give this utility to your SQL folks and say, hey, listen, go ahead and run this. And when you run it, they put it on their ePO server and say, okay, what's your database server? Well, it's called SQL. Okay. What's the master database? Well, that came from SQL when we built it, so we're going to leave that alone. And then you're going to put in the authentication. And in this case, I'm going to use my credentials that I had from Active Directory, along with my password. And then we're going to use the same credentials that we had when we created SQL. Remember, we added that account. We'll click Next. And then we're going to run the program to see how it holds up in this environment. 2 checks have warnings. Validate the checks. Okay, let's do that. Pending file name rename operations. And it doesn't like our hardware requirements. ePO installation might fail because of the restart from a previous install. Well, I haven't done that, so I'm going to roll the dice. I could reboot it, but I'm going to just roll the dice here, and I've been warned. Going to click Setup. We're going to see the auditor program again, but we're going to continue on. We'll fill out some common information that we just did and see if we can get our lab installed. This isn't a restoration. We're going to continue, and I only have one data volume. At work or in your lab, you may have a D or other drive letters. I only have a system volume, so we're going to continue on with everything, all my eggs in one basket. It's going to check for domain controllers and SQL, as you can see, and then it's going to pop up a screen that's going to want me to add similar information that we saw on the auditor. Here we go. Now the drop-down probably will have SQL. If you're in the enterprise environment, this could be a very long list, and you'll have to scroll down like you're looking for your birthday. And here's SQL. Database, always going to begin with the 5 series or 5.10, 5.9, so on and so forth. Everything now is back to ePO underscore, followed by the name of the server where ePO resides. In this case, we're building it on ePO, so far so good. And then we can either go the SQL route or go the Windows authentication route. Well, let's just be consistent. Now, I don't have a domain called ePO, but it defaults to my local machine. I have an SE domain followed by my username and then my password. All right. Once again, the SQL Server port is here. It's going to pick 1433. We're going to leave that blank to find it, try to find it automatically, which it usually does. Click Next. Looks familiar, huh? Here's the pre-installation auditor running and showing itself again. We're going to click Finish. We'll select all the default ports. Keep in mind that if you are in an enterprise and you're watching this video to get some tips like how you can install it there, these ports, you want to make sure that they're open, especially if you have an international implementation. If you have many facilities with firewalls, you want to take into account how your ePO server is going to be able to talk to your remote clients and satellite campuses. We're going to choose Next since we're in a VMware environment. Goal here is to get our lab built. Okay, so now we get to the next important, exciting chapter here. This is the admin account. You can name it whatever you want, but the default typically is admin, which is why it's filled in automatically. And this is how you're going to log into ePO for the very first time. And I'll put in my password that I'll want to use. This part's a little tricky. The passphrase, they want you to put this in so when you build it, build the ePO application, should you have to take or want a backup or snapshot, this has nothing to do with VMware as a snapshot. It's a nomenclature that McAfee took on, which is very confusing to VMware folks. This is going to be a passphrase you need to put in, so if you need to restore a snapshot, you can refer to this passphrase. So it's very important that you make this reference. Whatever this is, you document it clearly. Now, I put it into a notepad here. And I'm going to choose the passphrase, and I'm going to paste it in here twice. The minimum is 14 characters. However, here's your caveat, here's your warning. If you fat finger this in, this phase of entering it here, and then entering it here, and then clicking this next button, it doesn't check it. It checks it at the end of the installation, which does you no good. So that's why you see me put it here into a notepad. Cutting and pasting it eliminates the possibility. I'm going to fat finger it. If you fat finger it and you don't do it this way, you could get to the end of the installation and it could roll back your entire installation and waste your time. Click Next. Okay, so now we get to the license type. They have found a way to screw this up too. Hard to believe, but there is a KB article out there. It's very recent, 2022, latest version. If you choose evaluation, it can't create a cert. Okay, here's the McAfee KB article regarding the evaluation mode. I performed the fix in the lab a number of times and it didn't seem to work for me. I'm sure it's probably something I'm doing, but I'm following the directions. Perhaps the directions are not accurate. Possible. I've seen that happen. But the key here is if you're putting a lab together, don't use evaluation mode because somebody has mucked that up clearly. And if you look at other KB articles, there are other issues around the evaluation mode. You probably should have a license anyhow. Go get a license and put it in so you're not dealing with this nonsense. But if you go the evaluation route, you could and are likely to have issues with some of the later versions. I am going to put a license in because I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to deselect this Enable Automatic Product Installation because I don't want it to do that either. Why in the world they're doing that is to just, they think that they're making your life easier, but they're not. Click Next. Choose Accept, click OK, and click Install. Now we sit back and let it install. Okay, there you have it. ePO is installed. We're going to log in. Have my admin username and password. And we're in. So now that we know that we've been able to log into the ePO application, we're going to jump on over to SQL. You will now see that we had the default databases. And up here under the actual databases category, we have our EPO, all the tables and everything underneath here, and the events. Terrific. Well, thanks for joining me with that. Now we made that look pretty simple. The next video will be performing the latest update to 5.10, and then we'll actually explore SQL. And thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.